best, as does everyone in the delegation. But with what has been transpiring with the community college as of late, and, you know, especially the letter of a couple of weeks ago, you know, more or less, you know, paraphrasing, but demanding that the Erie delegation, you know, tell the Department of Education to, you know, get off the pot and act. You know, that's what really brought me here today, more than anything. So, and a lot has transpired since I made that decision 2 weeks ago. A lot of things have changed in 2 weeks. But I really want to just give you some information. That's all I want to do. I just want to make sure that you are aware. Because you're not always aware, you know, of what is happening in Harrisburg. And there's no doubt, there's absolutely no doubt that Erie County would benefit from having a community college. No doubt about it. As a matter of fact, Erie County does have a community college. We all know that. It exists. As a matter of fact, they just took out an ad in the paper here last week, I think, showing the courses that they were going to offer. And much the same, I'm sure, of what a standalone community college is going to start out to offer. But it's, you know, it's a pretty extensive list. So it's not just one or two things here, it's a pretty extensive list. And so Erie County does have a community college, and PRC is actively looking for space to lease and is moving forward, bringing NPRC's physical presence to Erie County. So, you know, I hope you realize that, and I have no preconception of what's going to happen next week on the full board. Okay, the whole purpose of the committee, okay, where the application still sits today, because it hasn't been kicked out, but we know that that's going to happen on the 13th, I believe it is. But the whole purpose of that committee was simply to establish whether or not Erie County's application qualified. Okay, you know, there was never any discussion, I don't believe, in that committee about Erie County already having an existing community college. I believe that you will probably hear those comments at the board hearing when it's time for the full board to vote. You know, those types of comments are not brought up at that committee level. At the committee level where that application sits today, it is simply, you know, doesn't meet the requirements. Okay? And so, you know, we're going to assume that they are going to say yes, and they're going to vote that out on the 13th. And so, right off the bat, if it was granted, and if you decided to go ahead with a standalone community college, you're already 4 to 5 years behind NPRC. In other words, they're going to be very well established in Erie County, you know, with some type of building, probably leased for sure, but they will be established here in a physical presence and graduating students before Erie County would ever get that far. They're going to be way ahead. First. Second, you know, your application does show that you will be less expensive. Okay, and that's a big selling factor, that you're going to be less expensive than NPRC. And I don't know if you've ever really looked at the other community colleges, and they do vary greatly. Ironically, Philadelphia over the last 10 years is the smallest increase of 31% over 10 years. Beaver County is the highest at 130%. Their tuition has gone up 130% in 10 years. Harrisburg, 103%, Westmoreland County, 102%, Montgomery County, 82%, Butler County, 77%, Highland, Pennsylvania Highlands, which is the newest and last one that was granted, I think, 93, I think. Tuition's gone up 76%. And so why does that? Why is tuition going up? Well, there's probably only two factors. It's either state money or local money. Whichever one isn't keeping up, it obviously goes on the backs of those students. And so, when you look at Erie County's application, you don't see those types of increases being projected over the 5-year plan. And clearly, the vast majority of the increases are much more than that. And so I question that a little bit, but only a little. Only a little. One of the things that I question more when I look at the Erie plan is when you go out to 7 years. When you go out to 7 years, then you have facilities. And under the plan, as written in the charts anyway, Erie County shows $27 million for a building. When you look at their written narrative, it specifically states 140,000 square feet at $265 a square foot. Well, if you do the math, that's actually $37 million, not $27 million. And, you know, part of the reason that is important, just give me a second. Under the finance section, within the law concerning community colleges, it says capital expenses shall include library books and complementary audio-visual equipment purchased during the first 5 years of establishment. Included in its 10-year projection of capital expenditures required by the Enabling Act shall be a plan for overall campus development. This campus master plan shall also include a student center, a cultural center, a library, an adequate facility, and student parking facilities. And so I'm gonna assume all of that is included in what is projected as $27 million 7 years out. Kind of tells me that Erie County would be leasing space, just the same as NPRC is leasing space in order to deliver their product. And I think that you should be aware of that. I really do. And the reason that it's so important, and I'm telling you, I have no idea what's gonna happen next week. I'm gonna call it 50-50. 50-50. But if the application comes out, I think you only have 60 days to put in place trustees. 60 days. So you're gonna have no time, you're gonna have new council members, and you're gonna have 0 time to make a decision. And it's not gonna be an easy decision. That's providing it comes out. Now, if it doesn't come out, then you have a different decision, which is can you come to an agreement with NPRC and move forward in that manner. And I do believe that that is the best manner to go. I really do. I think NPRC has a 21st century model of education, and I think that the constituency will recognize that. You know, the committee asked for a reduction in enrollment because they believed that the initial application figures were, you know, a little bit robust. And so Erie County submitted that new plan with a smaller enrollment. So their new plan, which started, I believe they started with about 750 FTEs, which is full-time equivalent. And they reduced that to 500 FTEs. So under 500 FTEs, under that plan right now, that's somewhere around 125 actual full-time students and about 1,200 part-time students. And I have to question that a little bit because most of these community colleges all began when unemployment was high. Unemployment's at record low. You know, do you really believe that you're gonna have this many adult learners coming back in to retrain when unemployment is so low? As we all know in politics, you know, timing is everything. It really and truly is. And your time is coming. Your time is coming. I mean, Erie County absolutely is going to have a community college, and it does have one now. What happens in the future is yet to be seen. But I wanted to make sure that you understood that. And especially the construction side of it. I'm surprised that PEE didn't question that at all. Over and over and over and over again throughout the application, it was consistently stated that the gaming revenue money was enough to sustain it. And it's not going to be. It might sustain it for the first 5 years. it's definitely not gonna sustain it. They're building $30 million worth of infrastructure. And I just felt it was important that I stand in front of council. I wish it was the new members coming in also, because they're not gonna have much time. They're gonna be playing catch up very, very, very quickly. Regardless of which way it goes. Because it is important that Erie County get behind a community college effort and get this thing moving. And, one thing that Harrisburg does know that we had to give $14 million to the Erie School District because they were failing. So Harrisburg knows that. Harrisburg also knows that we granted money to the city of Erie so that they could hire a consultant to get their finances in order. So those are two things Harrisburg absolutely does know about Erie County. But I can assure you, whatever decision you make, the Erie delegation will absolutely stand and fight for Erie County. But the fight can be easier or harder, and that's where your decision comes in. Community colleges get a line item. Education is incredibly important in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, incredibly important. And I can tell you, I know that better than most as being chairman of the House Education Committee. And almost every dollar that we have left after human services goes into K through 12 education. Not all of it, but almost every dollar. We try to put some into higher education, we try to put some into community colleges. We don't keep up with local spending. We don't, and we never have. I've never voted for a broad-based tax increase since I've been elected, and I've been in for 15 years. So if we have the growth, we have extra money. If we don't have the growth, we don't have the extra money, and we won't raise taxes. I don't want to mention how many times that my county taxes have been raised in the last 10 years. But it's been,
we're going to talk about local stuff.
But it's been enough.
It's been enough.
It's been enough. That's right, it's been enough. And I know that all of the constituents that I've talked to on the street, all of the everyday people that I've talked to, and I posed the question to them, what do you think about community college in Erie County? They either say, we have one, or they say, we don't need one because they don't want to pay for it. So that's being a little naive when they say we don't need one. I do believe that Erie will benefit from the community college, I do. And I do believe that we have one. And it's just now getting off the ground, and it's gonna grow, and I do believe it will prosper. Again, it's gonna be 4 to 5 years ahead of anything that Erie can do on its own. So, I really appreciate the time. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you have.
Before I ask council members if they have any questions, I would certainly say to you, I'm very encouraged with the comment that you made that we have a 50-50 shot, because never before in Erie County have we been this close. And there's a lot of people that have worked very hard to get us this close, and I'm very encouraged by your comments. There's also, never in my lifetime has there been an issue in this community that people have gotten so behind and are so brought together in unity over one issue. And it's about what happens with the future of this community. And for too long, community college education and education in general has been viewed as an expense, but it in fact is an investment. And as we talk about shrinking economies and trouble with the city and our other educational facilities, we need to do something different to ensure that our economy grows and that people have an opportunity to participate in that economy. I think we're on the beginning of good things. And I will say that we have always said, those people that have been proponents of community college education, that we from the beginning have always been interested in partnering and collaborating with the NPRC. We believe that we can
disagree with that statement, I would. I don't believe that this council ever really sat down and had a real, true conversation to see what the possibilities could be. I think that council, and again, this is from 10,000 foot, this is the point of view that every other Erie County person got out of the paper for the news, okay? And that's where I'm coming from. And I don't believe that council ever did that. I think that council thought that it should be a partnership in some kind of equality, and that's not true. They are the university. Your partnership, is more in facilities and curriculum and that's pretty much it. It's facilities and curriculum, because they are the college. You're not gonna control their college. Now, they have seats on the board, and Erie does have a seat on that board. There are 8 other counties, is it 8 other counties?
We have 2 seats on that board, at present.
The present. And I think there's another opening coming on the board right now. But one of the main concerns when the rural college was first passed, remember, Erie County was put into this because you wanted to be put in. You requested to be put into it, the county executive requested you to be put into it, the Department of Education requested that you be put into it. Okay, and the senator at the time, Senator Wiley, did the amendment, and you became part of the Northwest, or NPRC. Okay, so you asked to be part of it, and you were granted to be part of it. And since then, there's been no real honest discussions about how a partnership might work. I know the county executive was working on one side, and council seemed to have been working on a different. And in the end, it just blew up. You can't make demands of the institution that's already here. You can ask, how can we help? What can we do to make this better for Erie County? But it didn't seem to me that that's what happened.
I will say to you that, you can, talk to anybody that's been involved in my personal life, and they will tell you, sir, exactly how much time, effort, and energy I put forward in making that partnership potentially work, and making it work. And I can tell you
And I believe some of what you wanted could not happen without a change in law.
And what they wanted was just simply for us to remove our college application without having a partnership on the table.
Yes.
This isn't just a
No, I understand about that statement.
with you and I.
No, I got that, and that's when it fell apart.
Yeah, I want other council members to also be able to ask you questions, so
Yes.
I'll open it up to council members and, Councilman Leon.
Thank you. Sonny, I appreciate your comments. They're very good and obviously educational to all of us in different ways. You indicated, cause I met with NPRC long ago, about 2 years or so ago, if I'm not mistaken. One of the council members that's not here right now, met with us, with the county executive, and their comment was quite right. Of course, you have to be an educator in order to understand, because they said it would be a good thing for Erie County to have a community college, along with NPRC. Now, I go back a long ways, Sonny, probably too long, and I'm ready to take a rest shortly. But anyway, I went back as far as when Judy Lynch, myself, and it was Flo Fabrizio, and I believe Joe was maybe involved. In fact, he was on the committee for what was called at that time Erie County Technical Institute. And our position there was to try to get students to be educated in a technical type of area. In other words, if you were an employer, you sent somebody in to be educated in the field of your endeavor, and you paid a third of the tuition, the county paid a third of the tuition, and the state paid a third of the tuition. And it was a good concept, but unfortunately, we had some bad, we had some bad representatives that were there at the time, and when they left, the next one I come up was Camtech. Well, from Camtech, I did a little research everywhere throughout the state, okay? And some of the community colleges I saw were excellent. One is the Carbon Lehigh Community College. If you go down there, you'll find that they have an excellent community college. And regardless of what the cost is in that particular area, to maintain that college, which I believe it is very little now, because they even have contracts with people like Toyota and General Motors and a few other areas. But they've done excellent with their community. And what happened with the community college? Because everybody continues to talk about economic development. And economic development, in my estimation, has always been a large puzzle. And every little piece of that puzzle has to fit before you have economic development. And one of the pieces of the puzzle, whether you like it or anyone else likes it or not, is a community college. I've seen them, when they have a community college, I've seen businesses attracted to that particular area and end up making more and more business. Economic development is what I was looking for, and I still believe that that's true. You do make some very good points in saying, that NPRC will be ahead of us. But let me ask you a question. I don't know whether you're familiar or not. How many students are being taught by NPRC right now in Erie County?
I can't answer. Not a lot.
Very, very
Not a
few.
lot.
Very few.
No, they're just beginning.
I think there's about 4.
Yeah, they're just beginning.
Okay?
Yes.
But